Hi, and welcome to this week's energy report with Fee and Denny. Hi, Fee.
Hi, Denny.
This week's another big one, but it's the culmination of the month, really. We've got eclipse, the first eclipse happening this week, which is really the big news. I've got three things that I'm going to bring into my reading this week. And the first one is the eclipses. The second one is Jupiter. And the third one is Mercury retrograde. So just to give you a little bit of a summary of where I'm going.
Just a few things then.
Well, yeah, it's got a lot happening in the heavens this week to bring in. The first is the eclipses, and the eclipses are such, that they're kind of viewed a little bit with a little bit of fear sometimes, because there's such big events in our skies that happen, a couple of times a year, and basically they're just like times that of big transformation, or they could be. If we open ourselves to the energies of the eclipses, then we can move and shift and transform and grow by diving in energetically to the energies that are asking us to work with them. So that's what we're moving into. I think people would always find something going on with the energy, but if you're not working with it, then it'll probably just pass, and it'll be this uncomfortable moment, and nothing will change. But we can have intention to work with the energy that's been presented and open to us, and that's when it gets really interesting and fun, and can be very deep and uncomfortable, but transformative, which is great. So the first one happens on the 26th. That said, we kind of sit in the energy of eclipse, kind of going up into it, probably from, I think I said, the Taurus new moon. We've been really entering that energy. It's going to culminate with the first eclipse on the 26th, which is the lunar eclipse. And it's a full blood super moon eclipse, just a and it's in Sagittarius. Now the two eclipses, they happen when the sun and the moon are aligned with the south and the north node. So it's also this opening into the two areas. So the south node is traditionally seen as what we came in with, and the north node is where we're headed. So that's why I often say karma and dharma. It's those two places of what we came into this life with, and where we are headed towards. So that's what that's why it's also a big time, because it's an opening between these two areas. It's a beautiful time to flush out of our system what's no longer serving, so that we can go towards that what we're here to put out into the world even more, bring in more of our magic, more of what we individually are here to do. And the axis of these two eclipses are, the first one Sagittarius, the second one's Gemini. So with the first one, it's a lunar eclipse. So the thing that springs to mind for me is you need to feel it to heal it. It's the moon. It's going to be those emotions. So rather than getting too heady with this stuff, first of all, we need to just embody it and let it move us, and let it, all the emotions come up, and just dive into it in an embodied way before we kind of bring the brain into it. And the brain's going to want to come in, because this is the axis of Gemini and Sagittarius. To give you an idea of what that axis is, Sagittarius is our belief system, our ideology, kind of what we believe, but beyond religion, the core of our belief system. And we're being asked, the fact that there is this all happening in the sign of Sagittarius is to question that, to really dive into those places that we think that is what it is, because it's what we believe. But what about if we just dropped it all? What about if we started again and we assumed nothing? I think that, that's just so much going on. Again, I know I say it, but on the planet around this, there's so much conflict because I believe this and you don't believe this. What if we just all let it go and just came from a neutral place instead of having those expectations of those beliefs upon us? Then we're going to go into, and I didn't know whether to, because the solar eclipse doesn't happen until the 10th of June. So I know we will talk about that in the future, but the card I picked was the ring. Now, the solar eclipse is known as the ring of fire because that's basically what you kind of see in the sky. So when I picked that card, it felt like I needed to also speak to the second eclipse in this piece because the two go together. So that's the sun illuminating. So it's going to be, it's a solar eclipse. So it is, and it's in Gemini. And Gemini, if Sagittarius is the teacher, Gemini is the student. Gemini is information, knowledge, communication. But Gemini is also the teacher. It's just maybe Sagittarius is more the guru or the wise one. So probably that higher mind, whereas Gemini is very much of this world, seeking information in this world. And so we can bring, and in between, sorry if this is getting confusing, but in between these two events, the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse, we have Mercury going retrograde. Now, Mercury is the planet of communication, Gemini's planet. Going retrograde means going into a introspective state. So we have all this emotion coming up at the lunar eclipse, and then Mercury goes retrograde. We go inwards to try and review all those areas that we've been asked to work with in Gemini, the knowledge, what we think we know, our belief system, but also tangibly on this earth, everything to do with communication. And then we go into the solar eclipse. So there's this beautiful pattern to how this is working. Body, review, and then maybe it will arise what you need to know in a tangible sense, or at least pieces of it in the second eclipse. The other big thing that's happening and has been happening since the 13th of May and will go on until end of July is Jupiter moving into Pisces. So Jupiter is sitting in like the 0 degrees of Pisces right now. And I've spoken about that before, but the reason why it's big to talk about this week is that Jupiter is squaring the eclipse. So that's a, it very much, he wants in on the conversation, and Jupiter's, the biggest planet in our solar system. So if Jupiter wants in, then he's got something to say. It's probably a good idea to listen. So he's very prominent, and I don't know, like I go out into the morning and the only thing I can see in our skies is Jupiter right now. So I invite you all to open a conversation with Jupiter, which might sound really wacky, but these celestial beings have been there well before us. And in every culture around the world, all of the legends and myths and stories and beliefs, they all come from these constellations, from these beings, from these stars. So it makes sense for us to tune into, we're little ants in comparison. It makes sense that they have guidance, that they have things to say to us if we just open to them. So you don't need to view Jupiter in order to open the conversation. You can literally just open to what he has to illuminate for you around beliefs. And this may be, Jupiter is a planet of expansion. So Jupiter may be wanting to show you areas of your life that there can be expansion if you drop away maybe some limiting beliefs. There could be reasons why you want to stay small, but now Jupiter's right there saying, no, moving forward. There is stuff here. We're north-south nodes. If you let go of this stuff, you can step it in even bigger into your purpose. And I'm here to help you, but I'm asking you to let go of some things. And that can be a really uncomfortable thing. Something illuminated for me this week, Fee. And it's amazing how you can sit on these things and they can be there and you can't see them until you ask the question. So I got that piece from Jupiter just from asking the question. So that's a big piece this week as you're going into the eclipse. Those are the things in the sky. That was the card. I actually am not going to read anything more about the ring because I think that was just guiding me to talk about the solar eclipse as well as the lunar eclipse. There, I'm done.
Wow. And I thought it felt, obviously, as I go through my part in a moment, I felt like there was going to be a lot coming through, particularly from you this week in terms of those energies, because there's so much going on in the cosmos that, you know, I mean, that's why we were laughing, I think, at the beginning of the recording today. It was almost like, oh, there's a lot to come through today. So thank you for illuminating it in that beautiful way that you always do. And, you know, on a personal level, we've talked about this many times, that it's not my thing, astrology, but I love how you bring it through in a way that I can understand it. So it helps me throughout the week just to see, not only from the way I look at it, but from the different influences that are there. And I'm sure that helps a lot of people too. So, yeah.
Thanks, Fee.
So diving into my thoughts on the week, I'm going to start with the numerology of this week, and we're now in week 21 in 2021, so the numbers kind of speak for themselves in terms of their relevance. There's a lot of 2 and 1 and therefore 3 energy this week. So I talked last week about the 10-week cycle that we were moving into last week, where all the week numbers begin with 2. And so we're now in that second week of this 2 archetype cycle. So some of the underlying energies of this period of time that will be constantly, I would say, weaving their way through your experiences may show up as feeling more sensitive. This feels very much related to this week. And really, I think aligns to what you were saying there around the emotional energies as well. We're going to be feeling more sensitive, or we're going to be experiencing heightened sensitivities, which also brings, I mean, one of the beauties of that kind of energy is it brings in a deeper intuitive connection. So this is a time to really rely on your intuition and follow your gut instincts, particularly as you transition through these eclipses that you were just talking about, Denny. You know, if you work with it intuitively, you can find your way through those different ups and downs of the emotional energy much more easily. So also an understanding to know that you can rely on your inner judgment and follow the threads that will really help you navigate those intense energies in the most powerful way for yourself. So if we can do that intuitively, which, because we're in a time this week of heightened intuition, then we can just work with it much more easily. It certainly also feels as if partnership will be drawing your attention this week as you observe your closest relationships and what needs to be addressed within those relationships, you know, or talked through or changed in some way for those relationships to come more into alignment. And that can be, you know, we think of partnership, it can be intimate partnership with another person, but it can also be business partnership or people that you work with. So looking at that, that feels like it's going to come up a little bit this week for a lot of people. Being in week 21 also brings in, as I mentioned, that archetype of 3, just to add to the pot of the already heightened emotional energies that are shifting this week. And the 3 energy places the emphasis on, as you were saying, communication, but also brings in lighter energies of laughter and joy and optimism. So whilst this is sure to be a very intense week, you're also being shown, I feel, that you can find lightness in the shadows, and you can actually dance between the two as you're supported by that archetype throughout the coming week. You may find also that you're drawn to notice the power of your words, because communication is so heightened at this time, and the effect that they have on others, or indeed the other way around, the power of the words that others have on yourself. So you might be drawn to take notice more of the words that people are speaking this week. It is a time to be really conscious that your words can either help lift and support other people, or they can literally shatter and destroy them. So be very conscious of the words that you're speaking this week. Be cautious and just take time to think before you speak throughout the coming week. That feels like a big kind of message that's coming through with these numbers. And I think with a lot of 1, 2, and 3 energies around now, then you're also being guided to work through the week in a kind of step-by-step approach, you know, that 1 followed by 2, followed by 3. And so the details really matter this week. So don't overlook things by rushing to get something done. Just take your time, step by step, focusing only on the next step so that you don't get overwhelmed. And remember that you're supported. I think this is a big message. Remember that you're supported by the energies of the 3 archetypes, and you can therefore always find the lightness in whatever that you're experiencing. So I felt that was kind of very aligned to what you were saying, just a slightly different reflection on it. And then the card I chose was this one. So what this seemed to really say or speak to me was that there is a lot shifting this week, and this card really seemed to signify the outcome of those inner shifts, more about what you're working towards as you shift and transform through these different energies. So as you transition through this time of transformation and inner and outer changes, you'll once again create the clarity and impetus to move forward. So I felt that it represented the bringing in of the new. Oh, can you not see?
No. Oh, fire sprite. Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, was I waving it around too low? So, you know, this one feels exciting and really kind of allows you to feel into the energy of what is to come whilst you're experiencing the energy of what is. So it's almost like it's showing us where we're heading as we transform through these different energies. So I felt that was a really beautiful card for the week. And then the message that I got from the Akasha was again very short, but quite direct, which I'm beginning to really enjoy these messages that are coming through for the podcast. So I was shown that during this time of great transformation, you may have no choice but to keep moving forward. In symbolic terms, you may even transition through a death and rebirth process, as great change cannot be created without this metamorphosis. Do not fear what is for your highest good. Do not allow your mind to take you off track. Allow your intuition to guide you and trust in your own ability to find the right path for yourself. Your soul holds deep inner wisdom that you can rely on. Your soul has transitioned through periods of great change many times before, and your soul will guide you in the most graceful and healing way if you allow it to. So I felt that was a really beautiful message for the interesting energetic flow of the week ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it feels major.
It does, doesn't it? And and I think May has always felt like it's going to kind of be like that, but and myself, I'm thinking, I think I'll breathe a big sigh of relief when I get to the end of May, but I'll also feel, I think, that I've grown so much and expanded so much that will be a beautiful thing to reflect back on once we're actually through it all.
Yeah, and going into June, because there's a few doozies coming up in June too, by the way.
Yes, it's not completely over yet.
But I did want to bring up that in June, for the second eclipse, for the solar eclipse, I am opening a circle to work the energies of the eclipse. The first one, I'm going away with a group of girlfriends to do that myself, because I'm really needing to shift some stuff. But the second eclipse, the solar eclipse, I've got a circle in Narrabeen on the northern beaches. If anyone's interested, just get in touch.
And what date is that?
That's the 10th of June. It's a Thursday evening. And it's just a different way of moving through in an embodied way, so we're not getting too up in our heads, and it can really shift stuff so that what we need to then look at can come really to the front and center. Also, Fee, next week is exciting because we are bringing in a new part of the Other World podcast in guests that we're going to start introducing every so often. And next week I really love this because we both have been in the other world in our individual lives for a while, and we both know so many people who haven't the access that we do to these people and these gifts and way of sharing in a different way, from a different perspective. And I love that we have somewhere that we can share what goes on out there, what different people are doing that a lot of people would have no idea about. Certainly a lot of people in my world would have no idea of the amazing magic that other people in the world, all over the world, are bringing in. So I love that we're going to start opening to some of the people that we know that we can bring here and just have open minds about the different ways that people have of moving through this earth experience.
Yes, and I'm very excited about our first guest and seeing what she brings to the podcast as well, and also sharing a little bit of her journey, which is very interesting, and what she offers now from that space. So yeah, that is exciting. I look forward to sharing that with everyone.
Yeah, so sort of have a look and stay tuned, because we will be putting an extra one into the channel and into the podcast this week.
Yeah, beautiful. And of course, if you're subscribed, then you'll get that notification automatically.
Absolutely. Okay, have a good week. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, see you next week.